none of my businesses have required me to be positive every day. None of my businesses have required me to be productive every day, to be in a good mood every day. That has never been required. Money will continue to flow in. You can be in a funk and you can still make plenty of money unless you think you can't. And that's where you're piling on that negative meaning and you're creating more resistance to just shifting out of it. Hello and welcome back to the Joyous Path to Millions. How are we doing? All right. If you are in a funk, or if you're someone who somewhat regularly gets into a funk or kind of like a negative energy spiral or feeling a little depressive, and you're wondering how to better navigate that and how to minimize the impact that it has on your business and your ability to earn and receive money, then this episode is for you. So one of my besties messaged me the other day and was just processing out in a voice note what a hard time she was having. And it was kind of tied to business and money, but then also motherhood and how she was showing up for her children. And she felt a lot better after just kind of venting and processing and letting it all out. It got me reflecting on this because I don't think we talk enough about these periods of time when we're in a funk. And I'm just going to use that language because I don't think it has as much meaning attached to it as when we're swirling in anxiety or when we're feeling depressed or things like that, that may be a clinical diagnosis, but may not be. But just when you're not feeling your usual self and you're feeling kind of blah or you're feeling kind of down, we don't talk about that enough. And it was a nice invitation for me to be able to normalize that for her and then just kind of riff on my thoughts. And that's what's inspiring today's podcast. So before I dive into it, in case we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Emily June Wilcox. I'm the host of this show. I am a multi-seven-figure entrepreneur. I have a background in e-commerce businesses, marketing agencies, and I spend most of my time as a money healer and a business mentor. So I coach women entrepreneurs. I help them to heal their money wounds, make bank in their businesses, and walk the joyous path to millions. It is my absolute honor to get to do that and to get to host this show. So if we're not friends on social media yet, go follow me at mmakesmoney. We can connect there. You'll get to see what I'm up to. You'll get a lot of free value and inspiration as well. But thank you so much for tuning into the show. All right, so let's dive right into this. I'm in a funk, now what? So first of all, I don't want to make any assumptions about what you know or what you don't know because most of my audience is female and we're actually not taught that much about the female body. Like, it's really sad in hindsight, and I can't wait to educate my daughter so differently than the way that I was educated. But we have a 28-day cycle. Now, of course, your individual cycle may vary. It might be a 30-day cycle. It might be a 24-day cycle. But we have a cycle that's roughly the same amount of time as Mama Moon's cycle. And therefore, our energy, our mood, our outlook on life is going to follow a rough cyclicality that's roughly a month, right? So the way that this tends to work is that when we are bleeding and or when there is a new moon in the sky, we tend to be more inward, more reflective. We tend to not feel as energized. When we are in our follicular phase, which comes right after we're done bleeding, so it's when the follicles are growing. This also corresponds with the energy of a waxing moon, so where the moon is getting a little brighter and a little brighter every day. So that's roughly day 6 through 10 in our cycle. We tend to have more energy around starting new things. So a lot of initiating energy, starting new projects, a lot of enthusiasm and new freshness. When we're ovulating, roughly is day 8 through 18 in our cycle, and or when the moon is full, that tends to be a showcasing energy where we want to be on stage, we want to be visible, we want to be seen, we want our work to be seen. So it's a great time to be launching something in your business, doing a bunch of podcast interviews, posting on social media, sending out emails to your list, going to networking events. And then in the luteal phase of our cycle, which is day 19 through 28, that's a completing energy. It also corresponds with the waning moon, where the moon is getting a little darker every day. And so we may not have as easy access during that time to an initiating kind of an energy, because we're naturally wanting to be a taskmaster. We're wanting to check things off the list and complete the things that we've already started. And then the cycle starts over again. So I have noticed for myself that usually about once a month, and I was trying to think like when this happens relative to my cycle, and maybe this is my invitation to track this a little bit better. It's definitely not when I'm bleeding, and it's not when I'm ovulating. So it's either the end of the follicular phase or the beginning of the luteal phase. I will sometimes have a day or two where I just feel a little blah. And the thoughts that run through my mind are kind of like, what is the point of this? Am I making impact? Is my business growing? I'm not that good at selling what I do. It seems like all of the coaches who are the most successful are just really good at sales and marketing. And I don't even want to play that game. I just want to unsubscribe to the whole thing. I want to hermit. I'll start to fantasize about different business models that are completely different from what I'm doing. And the whole thing just feels kind of dense and heavy and blah. And if I don't watch it, I'll add more negative meaning on top of it. I'll start piling on, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But in a way, it actually is kind of predictable, because it does happen about once a month, and it never lasts very long. It's max a day, usually, maybe 2 days, but it's there. And where I think many of us go wrong is we aren't neutral observers. So we're not just saying, oh, that's interesting. I'm in a funk today. Wow, I'm really seeing all of those negative thoughts that I know I've thought before and that they've returned today. Isn't that interesting? That's what it's like to be a neutral observer. It's like you're not trying to change it. You're not judging it. You're just kind of stating the facts. But that's not what we do. What we do is we have a tendency to pile negative meaning on top of it. So we start saying like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. We start catastrophizing. Well, if things keep going this way and I keep feeling like this, then I'm not going to bring in the money that I need for this thing. And maybe my whole business is going to go under. It's like we pile on and we pile on, and we make the fact that we're in a funk mean something about us, our ability to be an entrepreneur, our ability to serve our clients. We make it about our ability to run a successful business. We make it about our bank account. And what I know to be true is that when we can hold off on that, when we can just be relatively neutral, and instead, if we can look for where there's some aliveness, there's some energy, even if it's not related to the thing that we think we should be doing or the thing we had planned to do that day, it's like if there's any road, if there's any path that gets us slightly headed in a positive direction, take it. So even if the aliveness is like, oh, I really feel like I want to grab some clothes out of my closet and put them in a donation bag, do it. And when you're done, you're going to feel more energized, and you'll have more energy and more aliveness that will naturally want to be channeled toward another thing. So I often find that when I'm in a funk, there's a little bit of energy around something unpredictable. It might be something on my to-do list that I've been avoiding for weeks, or it might be something seemingly random around the household. But if I just follow the energy and I do it, then I start feeling better. And I have to laugh because often these days when I'm in a funk, my tendency is to write off the day. Be like, oh, great. Well, this day is not going to go the way that I had planned, and I'm not going to be able to do the thing I wanted to do, and blah, blah, blah. And often I end up being super productive on these days once I get my energy headed in a direction where it's building positive momentum. So you want to look for where there's some energy and where there's some liveness, and then be open to the possibility that things can and often do shift really fast. That often when we're in a funk, it's like hard to imagine the end of the funk. And if we were to imagine the end of it, it would be in days or weeks, not minutes or hours. But in my experience, it's often minutes or hours before things start to shift. And so just honoring our cyclicality, understanding that this may be something where once a month like me, or maybe seasonally or whatever, you just feel blah. My invitation to you is, can you notice that it's a pattern? Can you be a neutral observer? Can you refrain from adding negative meaning on top of it? Can you look for where there is some energy and aliveness? And can you be open to the possibility that things can and often do shift really fast? And if you can do those 5 things, you'll be so surprised at what a great day, a funk day, can turn into. So I just wanted to share that here because, again, I think we don't talk about this side of business enough and how lonely it can be sometimes as an entrepreneur when you're in your own head and things are swirling and it feels like nothing is going in the direction that you want it to. And yet, if you were to share that and go up to another entrepreneur and be like, hey, do you just ever have a day when you just absolutely question everything and you're not sure you're cut out for it and you don't feel like you're good at anything and you just kind of doom spiral? Guaranteed the other person is going to be like, yeah, I've had days like that, or yeah, I have them regularly. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. You're not alone. And it doesn't actually mean anything about you or your business. If anything, I would say it means that you're normal. So congratulations. You're a normal human being. You're a normal entrepreneur, and you can be very, very successful. None of my businesses have required me to be positive every day. None of my businesses have required me to be productive every day, to be in a good mood every day. That has never been required. Money will continue to flow in. You can be in a funk and you can still make plenty of money unless you think you can't. And that's where you're piling on that negative meaning and you're creating more resistance to just shifting out of it. So if you believe that it's okay, that you can just be in a funk, you can observe yourself being in a funk, doesn't mean anything about you or your business, doesn't preclude you from making money while you're in a funk, it'll shift quickly and you can build an absolutely incredible, wonderful business, not in spite of it, but just with it, with the human experience that is part of this whole deal. And when I talk about being on the joyous path to millions, I just want to be so clear. You don't have to be just oozing with joy every single day. Part of the joyous path to millions is having funky days too, or having anxiety days, or having depression days, or having days when you're not sure it's all going to make it, or having days when you're just questioning everything. Existential crisis days. You get to have those on the joyous path to millions. So we don't have to be high vibe all the time. We just get to be whatever we are. And interestingly, when we bring our love and acceptance to ourselves, regardless of how we're feeling, to me, that is the embodiment of the joyous path. And things tend to shift so much more quickly because whatever we resist persists. So when we're in resistance to being in a funk, of course the funk persists. But when we just kind of surrender to it and then look for the aliveness and notice where there's some energy available, wouldn't you know, before you even realize it happened, you're out of it and you're into something that feels really good and you're back in the creation and the serving and the impact of your business. So today's episode is short and sweet. I hope it served you the way that it served me. Please screenshot the episode, share it to social media, let me know that you're listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Listeners like you have made this a top 3% global podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share, and leave a review. I also love hearing listener feedback, so feel free to slide into my DMs on Instagram @mmakesmoney. If you would like to explore hiring me as your money healer and business mentor, hit the link in the show notes or head to explore.emilywilcox.com. Until next time, I'm sending you all the magic money vibes on your joyous path to millions.